Welcome back, folks. If you only just tuned in the channel and saw what happened, make sure afterwards you go back and check the last two games, as of course these are going to be staggered 8 hours apart. Apologies for that, but I've got to milk the content because I love getting you guys to keep on coming back. And you're back for game number 3, so let's get underway with that. Welcome to game numero 3 between these two sides. Now, notice those scores in the top. It is actually now a score of 2-0. As we like to say in my country. I don't know if that's actually a term that gets used in all countries. Maybe you guys can tell me if you're familiar with nil. Just another way of saying 0 on one side. So, 2-0, the way of Team 1 here. So that is the team with Capoch, Hera, and MarineLorD for those curious. Taking first and second game. Second game we had most recently on Boulder Bay. And now we are here on Lipany. Lipany should be interesting, especially with these civ choices. Because once again, we've got a France on each side, and we've got Mongols in play this time by TheMista, and then also England. So the variable I'm looking at is Rus and China to kind of be the tech boomers on each side, and the other two to kind of be that vanguard, that aggressor in the feudal age. And on such an open map, I think especially a lot of value can be found out of the combination of France and the Mongols, courtesy of the Magadai plus the Knight. So we'll see how that one plays out. I do expect MarineLorD to go for a tech rush. He actually done this in game number 1 in the series, in fact. He was the first one, I believe, up into the Castle Age, allowed him to build a dominant force of horse archers that overwhelm their opponents. What I do not want to see going into this game number 3 is a repeat of game number 1 on the greed factor, where game number 1 was basically summarized by Team 2 wanting to be fat, plump boys and go all the way to the big age, right? They didn't actually want to have the kind of pre-aggressor, the defender in the early phase of the game, and it definitely cost them a lot. And considering Lucifron is once again on China, this could happen again. Admittedly, this time around, VortiX is the one on France, and TheMista is on Mongol. That's the switch up this time around. Is last time it was Mongol, VortiX, and TheMista was playing France. But I always get a bad feeling when I see this kind of formation of the Mongol in the middle. Usually it's good. The reason, by the way, Mongol in the middle is good is it allows you to go for Silver Tree because you're fairly well protected by the two players, right? So you're the greedy eco-boomer. So you scale your economy for what's going to happen by 20, 25 minutes instead of worrying about what's going to happen at 10, 15. My only concern is that was exactly the case in the last game when Lucifron's, or the first game rather, when Lucifron's brother was playing as the Mongols and he went into the eco-booming and Lucifron said, I'm a multi-TC and hang around in Song Dynasty. And it hurt them. It hurt them really bad. So I hope this time around, Lucifron has some sort of scheme to get active in the first 10, 15. Because if he fails to actually field a superior army, they could be in a lot of trouble. And he did actually field an army in that game 1, by the way. It was mainly Zhuge Nu, though. And the problem with Zhuge Nu in that matchup, as it can easily be in this one, is he's up against England again, and he's up against France. Now, France, of course, will just run knights at you, so you're going to do no damage with Zhuge Nu. And while Zhuge Nu can sometimes be good against Lombos, keep in mind that Lombos, A, have vastly superior range to that of the Zhuge Nu, but also remember that Zhuge Nu are just as slow at moving. So gap closing on Lombos is very difficult if you are playing Zhuge Nu. Looks like we're almost through a bunch of our tech ups already. School cavalry on both sides. Where's the deviation? Have we got Silver Tree coming out? Just what? Oh my god, no. What? Okay, so I assume this is because he didn't feel it was safe, but look at where Mister's gone. He had a gold vein here, and he's gone all the way back for this one. I think it's actually about a fairly similar distance, but this one's a lot more safe. But overall, you have to feel a little bit gutted about this, right? You chose the tree line, so you were no longer near this gold vein at all, and the other ones are nowhere near, right? That is a pretty bummed out state to find yourself in as the Mongol player, although I'm a big fan of this. So he's not going greedy with the Silver Tree. He's going to be active with the Deer Stone. So we are going to see some active early game aggression out of Team 2 this time around. Thank God. And I believe the over one, yep, Golden Gate as expected from MarineLorD. And I love this from MarineLorD. These small kind of optimization details. A lot of players play really condensed and really paranoid. Even at this stage of the game, in a 1v1, they'll, like, it's almost like they're looking for the min-max efficiency as well. They'll drop the Golden Gate right next to their TC and leave no room for farmlands. Notice that MarineLorD has actually left the optimal space to put a farm down here, right? So he wants to give that farm land space next to the TC, which is, you know, an option you might want to engage with if you come under fire early on, right? You don't want to have these risky pocket economies close to your base. You can put risky pocket economies far out from your base. I know that sounds nutty, but it's mainly because these maps are so big that it's very hard for players to commit their armies to raiding, scouting out, and looking for these small pocket economies far behind your base. So usually all attention is close to the primary base or to military expansion to try and take a big leverage advantage. That's the way you have to think about these games. When you talk about 1v1s, economical advantages that you can take through like sniping out eco, from blocking, etc. are really good. In 2v2s, 3v3s, 4v4s, especially 3v3s and 4v4s, for me it's not that. It's actually about territorial gains. You're not looking to take control of their economy areas. You're looking to take control of their base, right? So you're looking for anything that leads you in there. And if you have to run far to the north or far behind their base, you're not achieving that goal, right? That's not enabling your win condition at all. You're actually playing in a very suboptimal way if you spend the whole time of nights running around. Now, what you can do is you can invest a few scouts, like these lads over here. MarineLorD doing this for the Roost factor, by the way. Bounty, if we look at it, is going to be insane for him. So you can leverage scouts to find that info easier. But what I see is, for example, I don't expect Hera to push really many scouts. I expect it to mainly be knights. You can see he's getting scouts for the moment, but it's not for the purpose of gaining vision. It's for the purpose of gaining carcasses. And I think that's the big difference maker in 1v1s compared to team games. Is scouting might come into play when there's no action at all, but if there's ever action, you see a lot of players just prioritize attacking. They haven't got time to waste on the production lines into getting extra vision out, right? MarineLorD just trying to snipe out more of these. Up to 420 on the bounty. It's going to be denied here. There is still a few carcass points left, though, I believe. Yeah, so there is one back here just hidden. I don't think... Yeah, okay, he should know about that, but he hasn't got the icon in his mini-map. That's the problem. He only scouted the edge of it. So he's missing those ones in the back. If he finds them, he'll unlock his third bounty tier, which will give him the extra 5% on top of the gathering rates he's currently getting. And you'll generate gold more frequently. And you could even start utilizing hunting cabins to boost yourself up. Horseman actually being produced by Lucifron in the early game. Prepped for the longbowmen that he knows are going to be coming. The problem is that they are focused on the scouts. They're not even going to get value against these early longbows. These longbows will look to exploit you. Remember, they have ridiculous range. 7 range compared to the 8 of the TC. It's very easy to reach in and take out targets. And that's why you see the monitor production here, right? He's supervising the stable to give himself a 300% production rate overall on these horsemen. In the meantime, scouts are going to return the goodies. How many players in this game are playing pro scouts, actually? I think it's probably about 4, right? So no pro scouts for Mongols. Both French players have it, and then the Rus player will most definitely have pro scouts. There's no world in which you don't play into pro scouts as Rus. So yeah, as expected, it's England and it's the Mongols that are both ignoring pro scouts. And I think the reason we're seeing the ignorance of pro scouts out of MiSTer is due to the Uvu placement. You can see he's dropping these patches already. With this Uvu being so close, he can easily just utilize it to get that increased rate. Because remember, when you're close to the Uvu, you generate these sheep much quicker. Lucifron just yoinking up all those carcasses courtesy of what we just said. The fact that MiSTer doesn't want them. And they're a safe game for the moment. He needs to get enough to cover him up to castle, and then he needs to look for a way to get active. And that could be Palace Guard. I quite like Palace Guard in a lot of these games. Palace Guard are fairly decent against Knights. They don't get bonus damage, of course, but they won't be peppered down by these archers that are going to be supporting Team 1's push. Speaking of archers, horseback archers. MiSTer did go early into the Magnai, has a few horsemen as well. And they're already raiding. Look at the dive in. So looking to snipe out a few villas here if they can. We'll chase them about a little bit. MarineLorD able to offset the aggression somewhat, but I think he lost maybe 3 villagers to here. So overall quite annoying for him. But it won't stop him from doing this. Abbey Trinity now being built. And the longbowmen get a little bit too close here. They're going to be punished. The knights are being ignored. There's just so many horsemen here. Longbows trying to use palings. It's going to be a big fat fail, though. And the secondary group's going to be sniped as well. More knights are coming in from Hera, but the longbows should more or less die here. It looks like Lucifron isn't willing to sacrifice his horsemen, though. He will back up towards the TC. And Lucifron needs help. He needs it soon. The problem is that MiSTer revealed his hand, right? He went all the way north. Excuse me. So he's not there to actually back up his opponent, who's being pressured by 2 individuals right now. Meanwhile, you can see VortiX, he's actually trying to assist in the north as well, right? So it really is this trade factor. They're not interested in responding. They want to be active instead of reactive. Because if you end up finding yourself in a reactive state, you're just going to run back and forth across the map as you get attacked. They need to find a way of putting a dent in their opponent's economy instead of trying to minimize the damage being done to their economy. Missed up. Looking to snipe in, but nice quick move away. Hera exploiting that value behind the formation, reforming. Dragging the villagers away a little bit quicker. Has anyone actually picked up wheelbarrow yet? I'm always trying to like keep mental note of this detail. Yeah, so Capoch did. Capoch, he switched on this, he understands. No wheelbarrow for MarineLorD, understandably because he's rushing Castle Age. But the other players really should be engaging, especially the English players, the French rather. So you really see VortiX has got it. Surprised that Hera didn't. I really am surprised by this. You're playing France, it's even cheaper. Wheelbarrow is a fantastic tech and totally worthwhile. Wheelbarrow hasn't been taken by MarineLorD. And to round it out, did China? Yes, China did go for it. It's about half the, I think it's half the players, right? Yeah. And it might end up being 4, because like I said, MarineLorD has an excuse for not getting it yet, but he could go back for it after. But for the moment, he needs to prioritize getting the initial horse archers out. He started producing them. And remember, they still have this foothold in the south, and it's just Lucifron still. And he can't hold much longer. If you're not finding pressure in the north, you need to back him up. Instead, look what they're doing. They're wrapping the Capoch's base now, trying to expose England, but the problem is that Hera's knights are nearby, and you're not really able to breach. These lightly armored units cannot dive under the TC, especially England's TC. Remember, England's buildings, they fire double the arrows. These outposts, this town center, it hurts more when you try to aggress under it. Speaking of England, longbows are doing a lot of work here. VortiX tried to engage, sniped out a decent chunk of the longbows, but there's just too many here. He has to back away. And now with Hera's knights here, they could even think about diving a little bit. But they decide against it for the moment. They don't need to shut Lucifron out just yet. They understand they've got a foothold, and now they're going to wait for a raid in the north to distract, and then they can push in the south as well. And here it comes, the raid. Some scouts, some horse archers moving in. Way too many villagers here for VortiX. You might lose a few. One's already down. Garrison's the weak one just in time. The scouts will start to burn this down. Tech up is going to be complete. VortiX, this reveals his hand. He's very weak now because he teched up. So he's not able to stabilize, not able to actually push out enough units. Yes, I realize that was a terrible pun around horses that was unintended. Yes, there's nothing stable about his base right now, right? You can see they're burning through the outpost with just the scouts alone. There's only a few horse archers here, but there's no one defending right now. There's no one at home. Meanwhile, in the south, there will be no one at home for a very different reason soon. And it's going to be because they're all dead. Look at this. He gets caught trying to tech up. Lucifron, he can't complete this anymore. The longbows, they have too much range. Even the official's going to be taken out. And with so many knights here, there's no way to stop him from burning this to a cinders if he chooses. And now Lucifron has big problems. In fact, Team 2 overall have big problems. Because Lucifron, he was meant to be this reliable factor to get up there. But because he got pressured so hard, notice he's the only one on his team that is still sitting in feudal age. And more than that, he's the one under fire directly in his base. In the north, you do see a push out now. MarineLorD trying to utilize his lances, but there's so many horsemen. There's so many horse archers already. Tech up. So it's Vet Maganai versus the horse archers. The horse archers are still so powerful though. Remember, it's 12 compared to the 10 damage. They outscale them there. Only the health is slightly better for the Maganai after upgrading into vet status. But still, they haven't addressed the south. They're just kind of selling Lucifron out now. But to what end is my question, right? What is your gain? Where are you getting it? I think now they have an excuse. They had to address what's happening in the north, or the horse archers will just reign supreme. But you've got one player who has no way of scaling. And you can see he did somehow miraculously manage to actually get the astronomical clock tower over here in the end. But he's being dove 24/7. Look at the villager line! So many here. Remember, these are French knights. After the charge, they do get that bonus damage as well. And I don't think I even want to look at it. Lucifron, 27 villagers. For reference, Capoch, who only has 1 TC, is sitting at 45, and he's still feudal. So tech up complete, yes, thumbs up, feel good for a moment, but then realize that you are being picked dry, my friend. And with double ram here, there is no way for you to burn them down. You could try and sneak out with the garrison and then quickly burn down in between volleys, but there's so many longbowmen here. You know you're going to lose a lot of troops. And now with the knights committing as well, I think your TC is going to burn to cinders here. And VortiX, this is pathetic. I promised you relief, sends 5 knights. Yeah, I'm going to be relieved to get out of this game is probably what Lucifron's feeling right now. Because this is not fun to play. So leaves the Rams to continue their work. Occasionally getting more razors out. Horseman chasing around. Palings aren't being dropped by Capoch, though. He doesn't need to, however. He's too threatening at this stage. There's just too many longbowmen. Lucifron can't hold on his own. And I think this really comes down to being beaten to the punchline at the start, having your attempted maybe tech boomer on the front side, and having no support for him. The Horseman play by Lucifron was really good, but he had nobody to support him with this. And it meant that he was playing a 2v1. And the pressure in the north comes way too late onto MarineLorD. By the time he's really being pressured, he's about ready to go for a tech up, right? Compare that to the south. Lucifron and MarineLorD are the two that you have to look at, the difference makers here, right? Because Lucifron is stuck in feudal for a long-ass time. MarineLorD, he gets the resources, then comes under harassment, gets dove once, and then immediately goes into building Abbey Trini. And it just meant that the side of Team 1 were vastly superior at this stage of the game. They were always going to be, unless you double down on an aggression in the north, but they were never able to find that reach in, right? Because they're talking about Roost Horse Archers on a Civ that's now out-teched you. They can't commit to that anymore. And that's why we are seeing this as a result. Lucifron is about done in this game. No way for him to get back in. He drags away what villages he can, but I do not see how two players repel what is here now. The Horse Archers even joining the fight. The Night Line from Hera alone could win this fight. There's just so many of them. And they'll try to take this fight, but afterwards, I kind of expect a GG. I just don't think like you're getting through this quick enough. They are actually mincemeating a few of these knights, but the Horse Archers are still here, and the Longbows haven't even arrived yet. They're about to backstab you, and that means your army is going to get wiped. They'll start by sniping a sheep. Must be some sort of lucky charm thing. And they will hold back for the moment, but they're going to snipe out the last of Lucifron's villages here. No chance to rebuild the TC. Another landmark down. 1, 2 left to go. One's already halfway gone. And although Lucifron is trying to help by getting 1 or 2 Nested Bees out and keeping them alive, you can see the Longbows are always skirting and always staying out of range. And it looks like they're happy with that. They're going to back up for the moment. Damage is done, right? Like, what do you do if you're Lucifron? That was all your villages. He's seeing a 0 economy, 10 military units. He has no way back in this game. And I question what they can do to get back in this game. In fact, I just heard noises. I think that's a GG. Yeah, VortiX gives up. He realizes it's over. Despite the attempt by MiSTer to hold, despite the repelling of Team 1 here, there's no way to actually bounce back and take a player out. And that's enough to convince them that with Lucifron's base, smoldering ruins on the floor, there's no way to come back. It's 2v3, they'll call GG, and that means it's going to be a 3-0 sweep for AoE 2.